now and some changes he has planned for Caleb Williams in year 2.
He's been predominantly a shotgun quarterback for most of his high school and college career, and so he's very comfortable there. We're going to work to see the comfort level under center and how much of that applies. We had a lot of success where I was last, that going under center for the run game did translate in play action. Whether that works for us in Chicago, time will tell.
I like it. I hear you, Coach. But Caleb Williams hasn't had much experience being under center in his career. In 3 seasons in college, he ran just 8 under center plays, 0.1% of his total dropbacks. He was great in those 8 plays, though, throwing 4 touchdowns with a 98 QBR. Small sample size was good. He got way more experience under center in his rookie season, but the results were bad. His 25 QBR was last in the NFL. 50% of Ben Johnson's Lions plays were from under center, which was the highest rate in the NFL. So kind of interesting numbers there, Tim. Does putting Caleb under center make things easier for him, you think?
It does. It's always easier when a quarterback can play under center and from the shotgun. And I kind of found it somewhat interesting that, guys that are playing in the National Football League, this idea that, yeah, they've played the majority of their snaps in shotgun. Hey, you can't go play under center. Like, I don't know that you're qualified to be a pro if you can't. And I would point to Arizona and what they did this past season. Kyler Murray had been a shotgun quarterback pretty much his entire high school and college career. You just look at the first, from 2019 to 2023 of snaps under center. And then last year was a big departure from that. And just look at the production during that stretch. There's something about a quarterback under center, especially in play action game, where you're turning your back to the defense. You're hiding the football. It's hard to decipher run and pass against good offenses. It helps the quarterback. It also helps your run game. So, look, I think it's going to be something they major in, in Chicago. I think it's going to help Caleb, and I think it's going to help the Bears.
Ben Johnson has been highly successful with the quarterback under center, and now you pair that with Caleb Williams and his ability to use his legs in the pocket, also make every single throw. I think it can be a good thing. It's also just good for the offense to provide some space for Caleb Williams where he's not immediately getting the football in his hands and trying to make a play. Here's the thing that I like about it, though. It's Ben Johnson saying that the run game needs to be first. And the run game is better when the quarterback is under center. It's not going to be all about how Caleb Williams plays when we talk about passing the football. It's going to be how this offense allows Caleb Williams to take some of the pressure off of his right shoulder by doing other things extremely well. The big thing for me is going to be his grasp of the offense. Does he know exactly where to go with the ball quickly? Does he get through his progressions quickly? And when it's time to go above and beyond what the playbook says, can Caleb Williams do that and protect the football?
Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see, and also interesting to see where they go in the draft.
Let's talk about this. I love this. I love this conversation by Ben Johnson and kind of the whole idea of being under center versus not. It definitely becomes kind of like a battle of philosophies. I wish I could find the clip, but for the life of me, I don't remember where. I believe it was Kurt Warner, but it may have not been, where they were kind of talking about how the NFL feels like, quarterbacks are getting away from being under center, and that it's actually a problem. It's a problem that, when you can be a quarterback under center, you can make things significantly easier for yourself. And again, I don't have a strong opinion whether or not there's validity to that. I'll leave that up to the people who truly are the experts within playing at an NFL level for the type of defenses that you're going to be facing, what you're going to be asking for your quarterback, etc., etc. But the sheer fact that I love if you would really listen to what Ben Johnson is saying, though, is what Ben Johnson is trying to do is figure out how to get Caleb Williams comfortable and how to maximize, Caleb Williams. And it's trying to be like, let's see what you can and can't do. And I talked about this so much last offseason. I talked about it a ton, about this whole idea of that, when you're a coach and a quarterback, like, it's such a process of trying to figure out what you can do, what you can't do, what you do great, what you do kind of good, what you do just bad. And then trying to figure out what you do great Can we maximize that? Is there a way to even elevate that even higher? What you do good, can we turn that into great? What you do bad, can we turn that into good? And sometimes the answer is yes, and sometimes the answer is no. Sometimes what you do great, that's just as great as it can get. Sometimes what you do is good, there's not much more you can do. You for whatever reason, you just can't get that good to great. This is your version of great. And sometimes what you do bad, yeah, you can grow. And other times this is just not what you do well. And for whatever reason, we can't elevate it. So we have to do our best to hide it. We have to do our best to minimize it, or we have to do our best to find other tools that make you even better, therefore to kind of balance out what you do bad. No one's 100% perfect at everything. And so I just love the process, the thought process, and the mentality that Ben Johnson has. Because what it is it's very Caleb Williams centered, in the sense of, I'm meeting you where you're at. I'm meeting you where you're at. I'm trying to figure out. It's very much like doctor-patient. Any good doctor is going to meet the patient where they're at. They're trying to figure out, what is your baseline? Who are you? I'm not treating you like this, like this cookie cutter thing. I'm trying to figure out, who are you and how do we, evolve here? It's what great coaches do. I'm actually looking at the individual and trying to figure out who the individual is, rather than, I am the coach, this is my philosophy, this is my process, you guys just need to kind of, again, get on board, right? If you're wearing a blue shirt, I like when everyone wears black shirts. That's my mentality, let's go. And you have other coaches who are kind of like, okay, I see you really like to wear blue shorts and white t-shirts. Let me figure out what type of styles I can dress you in that make you look good in that. It's a different way, and it's you really do. You have completely different coaches in that regard. Some coaches see an outfit and they're like, okay, you're wearing shorts? No, we wear pants here. That's the way this goes. We wear pants. That's it. No shorts here. And it's not to say that one is wrong and one is right necessarily, but I will always favor more the trying to look at the individual and see what's there, see how I can make you individually the best version of yourself, rather than making you who I think you should be. It's just different. It's just different levels. And so I think it's incredibly encouraging to see Ben Johnson do that. And just his his confidence and his mastery over a lot of these different concepts, and his ability to troubleshoot. Because again, the bulk of coaching is also being able to troubleshoot. This didn't work. Why? And how do I figure out how to resolve this? And it's part of the reason why I still ding Kevin O'Connell for the loss against the Rams, because he saw where things went wrong with Sam Darnold and that offense. And there was no troubleshooting. There was no resolution against the Rams. They were able to do, all the failures that happened in the Lions is what happened against the Rams. And sometimes it's just like, well, listen, there's only so much you can do, right? Like if you're not good, you're not good. And so that's understandable so too. But like, to me, there was like clear coaching mistakes that I could kind of point to. And so, troubleshooting is a talent in itself, and that is where we're at right now currently with Caleb Williams. Let's troubleshoot, let's rip this back down to the foundation, figure out what we have, and kind of go from there. I disagree though with what Ryan was saying, where he was saying, what Ben Johnson is saying, that the run game is going to be first. I don't think it's so much of the run game is going to be first, but it's actually going to be a legitimate priority, and it's actually going to be a balanced, layered offense. Like, it's actually understanding that the offense is very multifaceted and layered, and it's not one-dimensional. The offense for the Chicago Bears this last season was very much kind of just like, I don't know what I'm watching. I don't know what you're trying to accomplish. You had a couple moments when you were like, okay, this feels like this was smart play calling, smart play design, etc., etc. But like, that seems like that was always just kind of like a random moment when you were like, okay, why don't we do more of this? And then like, you didn't, right? Like, you just didn't really ever understand what's the plan here, which was what was so jarring, because the scripted plays for the Chicago Bears were awful. It was just like, this is the plays that you guys have mapped out. Like, this is the foundation of your game plan. This is what your offense knows best right now. You've actually, like, everyone's on board here. Everyone's on the same page. And yet, what are you doing? What are you doing? And I just don't feel you're going to have that problem this season. So I'm I'm really, really excited to see Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson and see what they look like. It's so interesting to me because I've, over the last few days or weeks or whatever, I've made some Caleb Williams and Chicago Bears videos, and it's so interesting to me to still see such intense pushback of Caleb Williams and of him being trash and this and that and that he's a bust and all this type of stuff. And I find it fascinating. I find it fascinating because he was obviously not perfect last year, but you could still see the skill set and you could still see some of the magic. There were enough moments that you could say, I see why he was drafted number 1 overall. I see that. I see why he was drafted number 1 overall. And considering he was in an environment where the coordinators are getting fired, the head coach is getting fired, like it's just, kind of a disaster from that front. The sheer fact that he didn't completely implode really speaks volumes. That's why I don't care about the record. I don't care about how many touchdowns and interceptions and, his completion percentage. Like, I actually don't care about that in that moment of time. Moving forward, of course. But in that moment of time when I'm evaluating this last season, it's like, especially in hindsight, especially now that we see the complete picture of how the season began and ended and the coaching and all of that, now that we know exactly how this was going to begin and end, when you look at it, in hindsight, you're kind of like, okay, this was actually even better of a season than you could imagine. That there was like the sheer fact that he did not completely implode and erupt and just have an absolute disaster of a season where every coach is kind of like, oh, I don't know if I want to coach Caleb Williams. The sheer fact that you have a coach like Ben Johnson who's like, no, like I want to be here. That's because he saw something in Caleb Williams. Like, he's not going to want to run Chicago with the feeling of Caleb Williams is a bust. I got to go draft another quarterback. Like, that's a really hard thing to do for Ben Johnson, number 1. And number 2, it hurts his reputation because then he'll be kind of attributed a little bit with that. And you also don't know the runway that he'll have. If Caleb Williams continues to fail and be awful for the next 2 years, because you would have to imagine that he would get at least 2 years, like, Ben Johnson starts to be on the hot seat, and then he has to try to like draft a quarterback, and then you better hope you nail that draft pick. You better hope you get that draft pick, and if you don't, then you're potentially playing a game with like, oh, who would be the next Kirk Cousins at this point if we're fast forwarding 2, 3, 4 years? Dak Prescott maybe, right? Dak Prescott, he's 35 now, 36. Like, Dallas Cowboys moved on from him. Ben Johnson seems to be interested in that. Like, things just get ugly quickly, right? Like they just do. So Ben Johnson believes in what Caleb Williams can do. It's just a process of trying to, figure out how to best maximize and minimize. So I'm all for it. I'm excited to really kind of see this, and it's going to be so exciting to be able to compare and contrast this coming season and last season. And you're going to be able to see the differences, and I hope they get some good national games with like the Troy Aikmans of the world, because I think they do. I think he does like an awesome job of highlighting that, and I think he'll be able to, same thing with Romo as well. I think they'll do a great job of really contrasting the differences between this season and last season, where things were going wrong, why they're going right, I'm excited for it personally. I'm still interested to see. I still find it interesting to see such pushback on a take like that. But we'll get there. But those are just my thoughts. I'd absolutely love to hear yours. What do you guys all think about Caleb Williams and Ben Johnson and kind of the troubleshooting and trying to figure out how to best figure out how to maximize Caleb Williams, whole idea of him being under center more. Let me know in the comments below. I read every single comment. It's whether you agree with me or disagree with me. Either way, let's get in some discussions. Let's get in some fights. But ultimately, let's just have some fun. And please do consider subscribing. We are building an amazing community here, and I absolutely love to see you part of it. I want to build something that we all genuinely feel connected to. Something that we're really excited to be part of. I think we're well on our way to doing it. And please don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, as it really does help the visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much. See you next time.